There was an online program called Mood Gym. What that program does, it incorporates both cognitive behavior therapy and interpersonal therapy. And for me, the biggest struggle was the gratitude and affirmations. I had because of that inner critic, I spent a lot of time with my gratitude and affirmations where either they were really, really brief or they did not sound, they kind of sounded tongue-in-cheek. One of the biggest things that when I got diagnosed with ADHD was the fact that I had to change my habits. I had, at 52 years of age, a lot of not so good habits. You can habit stack. So you can stack new tasks, new habits that you want to learn. And grounding does not mean that I gave myself a timeout or got sent to my room without supper. Grounding is really just bringing yourself back to the present moment and in tune with your surroundings. Welcome back to 50s Unscripted. My name is Shelley and I am excited as we are here with our 4th episode of the season. That's right. I hope you've been enjoying everything else so far. And if you're new, 50s Unscripted, Embracing My Second Act is really just talking about the changes and the life experiences and how I've handled everything that I've faced thus far. You don't have to be 50 to be here, any age, because we deal with change at every stage of our life. And hopefully some of this will resonate. I'm hoping it creates a forum that people can start to talk, share, break any stigma that may be there with some of the topics that we're going to talk about, and just try and learn from each other. So feel free to add your comments, subscribe so that you can follow along and be notified of any new episodes. And with that, let's start today. In the last episode, I shared my weight loss journey, and I explained a lot how it wasn't just about needing to lose the weight. I had to do a lot of self-care and personal care to break the self-sabotage that my inner critic was a big part of. So it only made sense that for today's episode, we talk about my self-care journey. This is something that I have struggled with, and I start really well and I do all the self-care, and then life happens and I lose track of what I'm doing. Life gets busy, and if we don't take the time to prioritize for ourselves, then our personal needs, they get lost in the shuffle. We don't focus on them as much. We don't include them in the stuff that we're doing. So self-care, it's more than just meditation. It's more than just treating yourself to a fun day out. It's a combination of things. It's taking a look at your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. It's taking care of every aspect of your life to make sure that you're being intentional with how you take care of yourself and making yourself a priority so that you can be your full authentic self when you go out and do things. It helps us deal with our health, both mental and physical, as well as how we cope when we're dealing with stressful situations. When we don't focus on our self-care, our inner critic, our stress, and overall well-being can be negatively impacted. And the stories that I'm hoping to share and talk about today and in future podcasts will show some of that. For myself, my inner critic was and still can be quite brutal and very cruel. I could be sitting there and just having one of those bad days where, because I have fibromyalgia, I can get extremely sore and tired and fatigued. And after a full week, if I've been really busy doing stuff with the kids and working and traveling, I'll wake up on the Saturday morning with the best laid intentions, and then I'll sit on the sofa and I'll get nothing done because I cannot physically do it. I'm exhausted. Just getting out of bed to go brush my teeth is a chore. And on those days where I haven't done the self-care, or if I haven't been doing it for a while, that inner critic gets really loud. Oh, look at you, you lazy bum. You just sat here and did nothing. Look at the chores all sitting there piled up waiting for you. You didn't take care of laundry. You didn't go get groceries. And I'll sit there and that spiel goes off. So what do I do the next day? Then I overdo it. I do the laundry. I do the gardening. I do the grocery shopping. I go hiking. I do all kinds of stuff. And now what's my inner critic saying? Oh, way to go, loser. You just overexhausted yourself. And here comes that next flare. So the inner critic can be quite mean. And we can say a lot of things that we don't mean to say to ourselves. We can critique the way we parent. I've done that before, forgetting to take out food from the freezer, and suddenly I've got to go get fast food. Way to go, mom. That's a stellar mom moment. You're not even feeding them healthier food. We need to be kinder to ourselves. Think about it when you talk to your kids or your friends or coworkers who are having a rough time. We can be so extremely empathetic and kind and patient and understanding, but we can't give that same thing to ourselves. And that's part of what self-care does. It gives us that strength to give ourselves that same grace and kindness that we give to everyone else. As I said, we need to prioritize what we need, and we need to prioritize what we do. And for me, as I've said all along, and I know I'm a broken record talking about therapy, but therapy for me is one of the biggest things. We book a doctor's appointment for our physicals and annual checkups. Therapists aren't just there to deal with only, severe depression and things. They can be there to help you talk through challenges, talk through changing your habits, dealing with difficult times at work, dealing with difficulties with your children. There's so many ways. So just as we talk to a doctor to go through why we're not feeling well physically, talking to a therapist helps us identify why we're not doing proper self-care. And it is really a double-edged sword. So I look at myself with my fibromyalgia and my other health conditions, and stress increases the physical symptoms. So the more stressed I get, the more likely I'm going to end up in a flare. Vice versa, the flare that I end up in causes additional stress and additional challenges because now I can see all the stuff, and that inner critic gets out of control. So regardless of what your conditions are, if you're not feeling well and you're physically sick, you can cause undue stress, and that can increase and impact your mental health. So it's important to treat both so that you can be your full self. One important skill that I was teaching myself, or that I've always been teaching myself, and the first one I probably had to learn was breathing, which I know sounds really silly, right? We all know how to breathe. You breathe in, you breathe out, you breathe in. But what about when you're in those heightened moments? When you're really stressed and you can feel your body, how do you know just to take that pause and breathe? And there's lots of different ways that you can focus on that. The more I focused on healthier eating and losing the weight, the more in tune to my body I became. I also, with my illnesses, I'm more in tune because I start to notice when, I've got a pain because I did too much versus, that's different. That feels like I might have hurt myself. So you start to pay closer attention. When you start to pay closer attention, you can identify. So as I've been able to identify more, I can feel the anxiety. I can feel the tension in my shoulders. I can make a conscious effort to say, okay, breathe, and just release the shoulders. So once you start becoming more in tune to those symptoms that you get as you get more anxious, then you can start to incorporate more breathing. And it is simple. You're right. We do breathe in and out, but just knowing to sit there and pause and breathe in slowly, or maybe take a deep breath before you jump into a conversation that's a little stressful or difficult. The other thing that I worked a lot on early on, because I did have a lot of issues with anxiety and depression, was grounding myself, because I would start to have panic attacks and I couldn't breathe or I couldn't stop crying, and I needed to find a way to just ground myself and start to focus more on what was around me. And grounding does not mean that I gave myself a timeout or got sent to my room without supper, although there are days where I've said, can I ground myself and go to bed without supper because I'm tired? But no, all joking aside, grounding is really just bringing yourself back to the present moment and in tune with your surroundings. So it's not letting your heightened anxiety and those panicky feelings in your body take control. It's kind of pausing. And for myself, the way I do that, it's called the 5-4-3-2-1 method. So basically all I would do is I would just plant my feet firmly on the ground, sit and relax. I'm not moving. I'm not thinking. It's just very quickly, what are 5 things I can see from where I'm sitting? What are 4 things I can touch? What are 3 things I can hear? What are 2 things I can smell? And what is 1 thing I can taste? It's not getting into description. So when you're looking around, because there were times the house would be a mess and I'd be like, oh, look at that pile of dirt that I didn't properly pick up when I was sweeping. That's not what it is. It's not about getting into it. It's about shutting down the conversation and just looking very quickly around the room. I see the dog. I see the cat. I see a flower. And it brings you back and it slows everything down because you're stopping that internal conversation and you're just grounding yourself. Not a doctor. I'm sure there's a much better way to explain it, but that's how it resonates for me. So when I do feel overwhelmed and I need to be more mindful, that's where I try and spend a lot of my time focusing on my breathing, focusing on making sure I'm grounded. And you can do that even to start your day. You can get up and just do breathing exercises to welcome in the morning. There's breathing exercises that you can find to help you focus. There's breathing exercises to feel more energized. There's breathing exercises to reduce stress. I love the Calm app. I use that one all the time. And they have great short little, 1-minute breathing things that I'll just do in the middle of the day or whatever. You can go out in the morning and just stand on your front porch and look at things. Sometimes I'm running out the door to go to work and I just stand there and I look up at the sky and take a moment, just ground myself in the surroundings and take a look. All of these things can help you as you go through the day. As I got better with the breathing and stuff, then I could start looking into everything else that I wanted to try. So if I'm in a heightened state of anxiety or very panicked, I can't do meditation because then everything's just annoying me. I can't turn off that inner monologue and I keep thinking. So for me, I have to be calm. I have to be in a place where I'm ready to meditate. I have to be in a space where I won't be interrupted. And I recommend finding a place that's your own and that personal time that you do for yourself. You also have to find the style of meditation you like. I've done some where I start and I'm like, nope, this person doesn't stop talking through the whole thing and is telling me what to think and what to do. I want something with has more natural sounds. I want music. I just want the constant reminder to just let the thoughts go, bring myself back to the breathing. So you find the one that works best for you. And that's how I found things that worked for me. The other thing I like about the Calm app is it helped me with a few other things, and I'm going to talk about those a bit more a little later on today, but it helps with gratitude, affirmations, journaling, all those other things as well, and tracking your sleep. And that's the piece I want to focus on right now, the sleep. One of the biggest things that when I got diagnosed with ADHD was the fact that I had to change my habits. I had, at 52 years of age, a lot of not so good habits. I also had some good habits that I'd let slip away and things that I needed to tweak. Developing routines to support what you're doing is really important, and it can help you start your day off right. By setting up a morning routine, I know that I can get up out of bed because I have a routine. I get up, I go to the washroom, I weigh in, make the bed, get dressed, clean up. You make a list of things that you want to do, and you can habit stack. So you can stack new tasks, new habits that you want to learn. And so if I know I'm going to brush my teeth every morning, I can say that's when I'm going to take this new medication, or that's when I'm going to add in vitamins or whatever it is. Not my idea. It's a book I'm reading. When I'm done reading it, I'll let y'all know what I think. So far, so good, but it's Atomic Habits by James Clear. So great book so far, and I'll keep you posted as I finish it. But there are things that you can do to help you develop those good habits. The reason I mention routine is because one of the things that is so important is good sleep hygiene. Sleep is essential to making sure you can manage your stress, your health, your wellness, physical, mental, emotional, all of it. And sleep hygiene doesn't just mean getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep. It has to be restful sleep. It has to be solid sleep. If you go to bed and you're staying in bed for 10 hours, but you're tossing and turning and you take 3 hours to fall asleep, or you wake up for an hour in the middle of the night, you're not getting the right amount of sleep. If you're constantly, waking up every time somebody moves in the house, that's not a full 7 hours sleep. And setting up a routine helps you build that sleep hygiene, helps you come up with a way that it starts to tell your body it's time to shut down. It's time to go to sleep. And in doing that, you set whatever you need to do for that routine. It's not easy when you have kids to introduce that. We introduce it for our kids, no problem, but introducing it for yourself, it can sometimes be a little harder. But come up with a time and set it up for yourself so that you know at this time you're going to head upstairs and you're going to turn off the phone and you're not going to be watching TV. You might read a book. You might go and give yourself a facial cleanse, or you might just go take a shower at the end of the day. Whatever you choose to do, you find your routine that works for you to help you do that. So those are all different things that you can do for self-care. You can do exercise, you can go out in nature, you can do, the breathing and meditation, you can do prayer, you can all the different spiritual things as well. And there's still more, because the other half of it, and this is the part that I struggled getting used to, was doing the gratitude affirmation, showing myself grace, and managing my worry jar. And that was hard for me because that inner critic for all the things that I've had to deal with in my past would just tell me, well, you failed before. You've never managed to lose weight. Why do you think you're going to lose it now? Your marriage failed. Why do you think you can have a good relationship now? Different things, right? All these things that have happened. And that inner critic made it very, very hard for me to adopt those items. In doing that, I had to be really purposeful. And when my kids were younger, I didn't make time to do a lot of things for myself. When they were younger and I was still married, I would get up in the morning and I would try my best to, wake up early and exercise, but that would only last so long, and I'll get to why in a minute. And then I would wake everybody up and we'd get out the door and either drop them off at daycare or school, depending on the age. And then I'd get myself to work and then work all day and then come home, pick them up, get them home, eat, run out to events, run out to activities, birthday parties, doctor's appointments, and all that stuff, get them home, get them ready for bed, help with homework before that, obviously, do everything there. And then, spend time with my husband at the time, or I'd be preparing for their party, or I'd be doing work that I needed to get done because I had to leave early and I couldn't get it finished, or I would be, fixing outfits or doing chores or whatever it is. And then my husband would go to bed, and that's when I would have time for myself. And that's when I would watch whatever shows I wanted or scroll through Instagram or social media or whatever it is. And a lot of times it was just once everybody was in bed, the burden of everything I couldn't get done and that I felt I wasn't doing well enough, it was a lot of crying. It would be watching a show going, why can't I do that? Why can't I have that? Watch all those self-help shows and things. And why can't I make this work? So it really was finding the best way to learn how to incorporate incorporate the good things and silence that inner critic. So again, you have to find what works for you. I've read books that people have recommended. I've looked at apps and shows and everything else, and they don't always help. You have to find what's good for you. And for me, there was an online program called Mood Gym that I ended up using. It's an interactive online program. And it helped me with emotions and anxiety, my emotions of anxiety and depression, and build the coping skills I needed for that. And what that program does, it incorporates both cognitive behavior therapy and interpersonal therapy. It wasn't easy, and I really struggled. And for me, the biggest struggle was the gratitude and affirmations. I had a really hard time. Worry jar, I had a hard time as well, not for the reason you'd think. I had no problem filling that thing every day. I could sit there and write all my worries and go on and on and on, but that wasn't the point. A worry jar is just meant, how do you take that thought that's causing you all that angst and stress and just put a pause in it, put a pin in it, and write it down so that you can deal with it when you have the time and are in the right headspace. So I did the opposite. I would just dwell on that worry and it would compound over time. So I had to learn that. So that was hard as well. Because of that inner critic, I spent a lot of time with my gratitude and affirmations where either they were really, really brief or they kind of sounded tongue in cheek. What's a good one I had? So I can fix things after I mess everything up. That was my affirmation. I can fix things. I just mess it up first. Not an affirmation. That's, kind of contradictory. The same thing with gratitude. I'm grateful for people putting up with all my mood swings. Not really quite gratitude. Yes, I was grateful for the people that are tolerating me, but I wasn't writing it in a way. So I had to learn how to be kinder to myself. And the Mood Gym app really helped me a lot. So things started to change, and it went to, I am capable to learn new things and change my routine. I am able to start over. So I found ways to change it. And eventually I could get to those things of saying, I am a strong person. And I can say that because I know I've recovered from other things. And it's true. It took me a long time to say that. But I can say I am a strong person. I am a loving person. I am a good person. So you get to that point where you can start to say those and start to affirm. My worry jar is now just that. I don't dwell on it. I'm worried about a person, or I'm worried about work, or I'm worried about whatever the flavor of the month is. And then I'd come back to it at the end of the day when I'm doing my reflection. And that's where I find the Calm app was helpful, because it has a very short journal and it asks you a question. What are you grateful for? What are you worrying about today? And it's got all these little things so you can do different questions and jot it down and think. And then it gives you that opportunity to go back and reflect. So I really did have to learn to do all that. And the other thing that's very important is to prioritize that. I also took part in some training at Lake Ridge Health with their parenting and children area. And it was an managing emotions program. And it was interesting. It was really good. And that helped a lot, because we don't realize sometimes the type of person we are and what we need to make us feel valued. And it kind of gave me different resources to look at. So I am a people pleaser. I want to know that that everything's okay. And I want to know people are fine, and that the people I care about are doing all right, and that I'm not doing anything to impede them. People pleasing goes to an extreme, because then I start wanting to just do everything for everybody, and you can't do that. But the other thing that I learned through this course was all the different things that my emotions could do, jumping to conclusions, catastrophizing everything, making everything a disaster, assuming I know what's going to happen, trying to be that psychic. So there were lots of things that I got to dig deeper into. And I had to learn that when my brain boss was trying to hijack, so when my head was trying to tell me, you don't want to do that because when you did that last time, this is what happened, and it started preventing me from doing things, that was my trigger, and that would set me off. So I started to learn all of these things, and it helped. It helped in talking with my kids as they were dealing with their struggles. It helped me as I deal with things at work. It helps me in my personal life. Self-care is also practice, again, through your therapy. It's not a bad word, and I know I'm like a broken record the more I talk about it, but think about it from you and your friends. I have had friends who have said, you know what, can we talk about something else? This is just too negative. Because I was in that state where my emotions were so bad. Everything was negative. I was making a disaster of everything around me. And my friends aren't there for me to be constantly negative. I didn't want my friends to get to the point where they were avoiding me because I had nothing nice to say. And it wasn't that I wasn't a good person or I didn't have nice things to say. I was just beyond stressed, and I couldn't focus on anything but the bad. And it's the same thing when you think about your relationships. What is one of the biggest strains on a relationship is if all you do is negativity, right? You want to be able to bring in the positive. You want to be able to talk openly, but not always negative. And working with a therapist allows you to talk to somebody who's not part of the situation. You can talk to somebody who isn't buried in the weeds, and you can say whatever you want. And you can say, this makes me so mad because, and ramble off those things. And the therapist is going to ask you, okay, and what would have happened if you said that to your son, your daughter, your friend, your coworker? And then you take it from there. But that's a great way. And that's why therapy does help, because that way you're not putting all that burden on your loved ones. It also means, it doesn't mean that you don't talk to them, but you do have to talk to your loved ones and make sure they understand where you need their help, and that they understand this is mom time. This is my time. This is me time. I'm going to go learn a new skill. I'm going to go read a book. I'm going to go watch one of my programs. I'm going to go for a walk by myself. And have them understand that that's just because you need that time. Our kids get up and say, hey, I'm going up to my room for a bit, and we don't say anything. We need that time to basically go hide out in our room for a little while as well. Whether it be that you're going to the gym, you're going to visit a friend, you're going to get a manicure, you just want to go sit and do some meditation, do anything like that. But set that time aside and let people know where some of those struggles are. Everybody helps with the chores. It's not one person's responsibility. Talk about the things that are a problem. Talk about the things that you need help with so that you can stay on top of everything. And that will make a huge difference, because you want and need to know that they are with you and they are helping you. And you need to know that you can count on them to give you that space and to give you that time. You need to know and accept that you cannot be everything to everyone. You will not make everybody like you, and you cannot control what other people are going to say or think about you. You just have to be your true, authentic self. So focus less on what everybody else needs and try and focus a little bit on yourself. You are your own anchor. You're the driver and guide. Take the time to stop and smell the flowers. So that was a lot of different topics, a lot of different discussion, but I do hope that it helped kind of show you some of the struggles that I dealt with, some of the ways that I try and incorporate self-care. There are different things. I do self-care at work, or at least I try to. Sometimes the schedule gets busy, but I do try and join those when I can. I try and do it in the morning. I get up early and take time to myself and have my coffee in the morning before everybody gets up. Sometimes go to bed a little early and take a little extra pampering, sit in the tub or take a shower. Do things that make you feel better and are going to give you that lift. Focus on the routine, but start small. You don't have to boil the ocean. Take your time and start with something small. Add one little new task to your nightly routine to help you move to better sleep hygiene. Add one little task in the morning to help you be more organized as you start your day, and just slowly build from there. And I will share more tidbits as I learn them as I'm reading the book. The other thing I ask is just remember that we're all going through something that nobody knows about. Everybody experiences hardship in life. Everybody experiences difficulty, and you don't always see that. You only see what people let you see. So just as much, be kind, be patient, be understanding, be empathetic. As much as you're doing that for everybody else, remember to give it to yourself. Remember to show yourself grace. Be kind to yourself. Forgive yourself when you forget to do something. Recognize and celebrate those little accomplishments. If you make that little task happen, celebrate it. Be glad. Don't dwell on the 3 other things you forgot to do. Remember you did that other one first. And we aren't perfect. We will fall. We will stumble. It's okay. Stand up, dust yourself off, and go again. We learn from our experiences, and that's how we continue to grow. And that's what makes us human. And we learn. It's unscripted. It's unplanned. We have to go with it and go with the flow. Thank you guys so much for joining again today, and I look forward to talking to you in a few more weeks. Take care. Hey, you're still here. Have you checked out the next episode? It's a really good one. Lots of great stories. I think you should check it out. You'll enjoy, and make sure to subscribe so you get notified when new ones drop.